Iceland is moving to restrict porn access, and activists are calling for porn blockers because they feel that pornography is leading to a gender gap within the country, which I find really, really interesting, especially because they don't really seem to have a gender gap issue at all. So there's something known as the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Report, and Iceland has been the top country for 4 years in a row, meaning that they have conquered their gender gap issues. But apparently it's not enough. And I think that this is a perfect example of feminism going way, way overboard. Okay, so they really want to focus on extreme pornography or violent pornography. And just to give you an example of what they mean by that, I want to read you a quote by one of the professors.
Okay, and just before we go to the quote on pornography, to set the context here, they've already banned strip clubs.
Yes.
Okay, under the new leftist government. Now, that government is already done, but after the crash of 2008, they brought in this incredible leftist government that did wonderful things, like nationalizing the banks, which they didn't keep forever. They then, privatized them at some pace, and they put the bankers in jail. They even went after the leader of the country that was in charge at the time. It was amazing. And yes, their economy struggled as they went through those pains, but now their economy is doing great. So some of their, leftist policies I loved. But again, to Anna's point, going overboard, banning strip clubs.
It's just not the right way to go. And I'll tell you why in a second. But, in terms of the gender gap, some of you might wonder, what the hell do they mean by gender gap? They talk about educational opportunities for women, of course, career opportunities for women. So they look at a wide variety of issues, average life expectancy for women versus men. And they try to figure out whether or not, it's equal across the board for men and women. Okay?
And so, for example, 41% of parliament in Iceland is women. In America, it's only 17% of our Congress. So the fact that they've achieved much better gender equality in Iceland, terrific. Again, these are the upsides. Now, one of the things that they're doing is they're criminalizing guys going to prostitutes.
Yes.
Okay. So, and this is trippy. It's not criminal to be the prostitute. It's criminal to go to a prostitute.
Yes.
So the guy can get charged, but the woman can't get charged. Or it depends, of course, on the gender. It could be a guy prostitute too. But for the average American, that blows your mind. Like, wait, we're supposed to judge the woman, right? It's her fault. She's the dirty one, right? I'm just an innocent guy going to get laid. Whereas they've flipped it on its head. No, you're the one who's going to break the law, and she's just trying to earn a living, right? So now, I don't agree with either of that. I don't think prostitution should be illegal for either side, right? So we would be moderates in Iceland. So now they went to go block porn. Now this gets serious. Okay, now that law hasn't passed yet.
It has not passed yet. These are proposals, and the proposal includes porn blockers. So, the computer would have certain blockers that would make porn unavailable to people living in Iceland. And, they're really focusing on a specific type of pornography, as I mentioned earlier. They want to focus more on violent pornography. And to quote Professor Gail Dines, she says, "Choking women with a penis, which is standard throughout hardcore pornography, very, very rough, pounding anal, oral, and vaginal sex." So that's an example of what they're really targeting. They feel that influences sexual attitudes among men. They think that this type of behavior is normal in the bedroom, and they're worried that it'll lead to violence toward women.
Right, but look at how absurd that is. Like, what is your definition of choking someone with your penis? Okay, where does a blowjob cross over to choking, right? And she says, oh, it's in a lot of the porn. So, I don't know where your line is. And then the pounding of the vagina. Okay, I mean, where in the world are you going to find an adequate description of that? And is there going to be a pounding of the vagina referee in Iceland? Like, no, that one was gentle enough.
Yeah, that's
no,
the thing.
But no, that ass was pounded a little too much.
How do you enforce something like that? She continues, where there's often 3 men and 1 woman, where they're spitting on her and calling her cunt, whore, cum dumpster, bitch, and all of those images. So that kind of stuff.
Come on, man.
I know, she's a professor, so it's strange to hear a professor use terminology like that. But
I'm against, I just want to be clinical here, I'm against women being called cum dumpsters. Okay.
Okay. So, God,
is there
that's
someone
a pretty hideous phrase by the cum dumpster. Anyway.
Yeah, it's terrible, but is there going to be somebody writing it down like, okay, wait, no, we had bitch on that one. No, that one's out. Was that spitting? I can't tell. There was some sort of fluid out. Oh, cum dumpster, way out.
So in the U.S., porn is protected under the First Amendment. It's considered free speech. And that's something that Iceland takes into consideration. Of course, not the U.S. Constitution, but their own laws. And they're saying, look, we want to protect freedom of expression, but we also want to make sure that we're not endorsing violence toward women. But here's the thing. I mean, there's no evidence indicating that this does actually lead to violence toward women, right? And also, you know, the hatred of strip clubs and prostitution, none of that makes sense. As I mentioned, you know, those options or that type of activity will always exist regardless of what type of regulation you try to pass. The best thing you could do to protect women is to legalize it and regulate it. You're actually working against women in this case. And also, blocking pornography is going to make people want pornography more. Now, on The Point, the show that I host, not a big deal, we had this whole episode on pornography, and Nina Hartley, a legendary porn actress, tackled this issue. We also have Kevin Pereira in the clip, so let's take a quick look to see what they had to say about hardcore porn.
I think all forms, all genres are now at this point in time, because we've seen it all, as you were saying, we can do it all. You have to, they're being pushed to extremes because they want to get to places that haven't been done before. But that happens on all sides of porn. There's also women in stilettos that crush men and degrade them as well. It all depends what you're into, but you can find an extreme form of that no matter what genre you want.
And then extremely, you know, face stroking and gazing and all kind. You know, there's all these. There's James Dean.
I saw when they just put on a Dave Matthews Band song.
I know,
cried.
and exactly.
And that was it. It was 5 minutes, and I finished twice. No refractory period. It was insane.
So, but when people, since everything's a mirror to us, if I look at something and get very upset by seeing it, the tendency is I don't like this feeling, I want that to go away, as opposed to I don't like this feeling, wow, what's going on here? What is that triggering in me? How interesting. 4-year-olds say, you make me feel bad, you stop that. Adults go, wow, I need to look at my feelings and my reactions and take responsibility for them. I'm not a child. I have the power of discerning fact from fantasy.
See, I love that point that she makes.
Yeah.
Because when you get a government that's this interventionist in a sense, they treat you like a child. And I'm not a child. I'm an adult. Let me make my decisions, right? Now, I know what they say. They say that it has effects on a macro scale on women, etc. But I think you're way over legislating. Now, it's not likely to pass because they have a new government that's, not going in this direction. So don't panic if you're in Iceland, okay? But so you can go too far.